Musically Hitched, we're gonna keep it real, okay? I'm gonna say I can never let the root go. I can never let the voice and the music go, because that has allowed me to transition into various spaces as an actor, as a voice actor, commercials. That's been my wild card. That I've been able to, you play spades. I've been able to throw that card out. Yeah, right. Is there anything else anyone can do in the room? Yes. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm in a space right now where I'm really trying to break the ground in the acting space, but I can never turn my back on what has allowed me to kind of make this thing happen, which has been being a creative vocalist, singer, and all that good stuff.
Welcome to another episode of Musically Hitched. I'm your host, Dak Reynolds Jr. We're back today talking about all things music with an industry vet, someone who is no stranger to the stage. You're going to find out exactly what I mean about that in just a few minutes. We have none other than the amazing Miss Tina Peters. Tina, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been great just knowing that you're going to be on the show. I've been excited. We've done some work in the past, and I'm looking forward to everyone getting to hear your story, those that may not know it, and I think it's really going to be enlightening because you have a unique perspective. You do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You're a mom, a wife, an actress, singer, and so you're checking off all the boxes.
Yeah. And
you've been doing it for a while. So how did you get started in the first place? Where did music, becoming musically hitched, where did that start for you?
It started as a child, at home with my extremely creative parents. My dad, singer-songwriter extraordinaire, the most amazing vocalist that I've ever heard. I feel like he never got his just due. So many singers like that. And then my mom as well. So I grew up in a creative home. I grew up around the arts, in the studio with my dad doing sessions late, my sister and I. So I feel like I was born into this thing, to be honest with you.
So you're in Atlanta now, but where's home? Are you from Atlanta?
So I tell people I'm a California girl with sweet tea in my veins, okay? I'm originally from LA. Shout out to the West Side, okay? But I feel like I know Atlanta made me. So LA will always be home for me.
Okay, so really you came from a household where dad's a songwriter. So
right.
He was a star? Did it start anywhere before him?
Yeah. My dad, is like a lot of black artists in the late 70s, early 80s. They made the great migration to LA. Yeah. You kind of either had to decide if you were going to shoot for Broadway dreams or if you wanted to go try to get into this buzzing music scene in Los Angeles. Right. So my dad, originally from Akron, Ohio, moved to Los Angeles pursuing.
LeBron, everybody knows Akron.
Yeah, everybody knows. Right, but they had some cold musicians that came out of Akron. So my dad went out west with a bunch of musicians, and my dad was the front runner, the lead singer, with several groups. They all kind of went to LA to try to make their dreams happen. And my mom moved from Cleveland when her mother, my grandmother, went to Los Angeles to pursue her career as a model. So if you were, like I said, Midwest, just kind of knew you had something greater, desired more for your life, black people specifically, were like people now. People still running to LA, to make those dreams come true. So that's how my family got there. And then my mom and dad met in Los Angeles, got married, and had my sister and I.
Okay. So you mentioned something in your statement just now about LA, people moving there for dreams, but we're in Atlanta. Some people consider this the Hollywood of the South,
sure,
the LA of the East,
right.
Whatever, right? Is it necessary for people that are on the East Coast to go west?
I don't think so.
For entertainment?
Right, yeah, I don't think so. I think Atlanta has become such an epicenter for arts, and it's not even just because of the booming not just because of the booming movie industry. Right. It's music, it's digital content creation, it's tech, it's entrepreneurship. I think there are so many things that those people who are from Atlanta only dreamed of is now happening in this city. So I believe you can conquer Atlanta. You can kind of make it, you can, and you need to really win the city over. Once you won the city over in your industry, then I think that's when you launch out into the deep. That's my personal idea on all of that. So
how do you win a city over?
I think you win the city over where whatever your specific industry is, you are in demand. You know, people know who you are. People know what you do. You are reputable and you have something that's creditable that people can say that's legit. I'll give you for an example, Slutty Vegan, right? Slutty Vegan flew up here. You know, we were lined up, and then she went to New York, and then she went to did the tours, and then you open your storefronts and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean by that's kind of the model of winning the city over in my mind. You know, I want to make sure I win here, I break ground here, people know what time it is. And then I go out and do the other things. And that can happen for creatives too. You know, I know actors who, once they've done the regional theater circuit here in Atlanta, it's like, I got to go to New York. I've done this. I've won the city here. Right. I've worked all the theaters. I got my equity credits, you know, and now I need to launch out into the deep. Yeah. And I got to take on the next big dog, which is New York. Yeah. So that's my idea of winning the city over.
Right. Shout out to Pinky Cole.
Okay.
But that's true. So you really can't consider yourself, we're not trying to discourage anybody from moving.
Sure.
Do you, right?
Right, absolutely.
But if you haven't maximized the turf where you are, if the fertile ground where you are doesn't know you, or there's no seeds or no evidence that you've been planting, that will show.
Absolutely.
And that's through your character,
right?
It's through your work ethic, it's your punctuality, it's your preparation, it's all of those things, right? So you're on a few different sides of the entertainment thing. So when we talk about music, singing, I know you're a singer, actress. If you have to choose, which one?
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Wow. If you ask me that, it would depend on like what phase in life I'm in.
Because sometimes you end up doing it. We're gonna talk about your role in Genius.
Right.
Sometimes you end up doing both.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I can never let the root go. I can never let the voice and the music go, because that has allowed me to transition into various spaces as an actor, as a voice actor, you know, commercials. That's been my wild card. That I've been able to, you know, you play spades. You know, I've been able to throw that card out. Yeah, you know, is there anything else anyone can do in the room? Yes. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm in a space right now where I'm really trying to break the ground in the acting space, but I can never turn my back on what has allowed me to kind of make this thing happen, which has been being a creative vocalist, singer, and all that good stuff.
So let's talk about the acting. So Genius Aretha, this amazing work that chronicles the life of a global music and social icon. Yeah. How did you get that gig? How did that come about?
Right.
And what role did you play for those who didn't see?
Yeah. So I was blessed to play the role of Clara Ward, the godmother of gospel music. I feel like she's someone that doesn't get her just due. She doesn't get her proper flowers. So I was so honored to be able to step in her shoes, you know, and tell her story. I got the role because I was auditioning. You know, my agent at the time, we were pounding the pavement like I'm doing now and with another rep, but we were submitting everything that was coming through. We were auditioning for. And I'm the type of person, I always keep my eye on what's happening in the industry. You know, I believe that, like, I ask God for what I want in my life, you know, and I am not big on necessarily the terms of manifestation. I know a lot of that tends to lean a little bit different from what I believe as a Christian woman. But I do believe in prayer. I do believe in being bold in what I'm asking of God and believing that if that is his will for my life, it's going to happen. Okay. So when I was watching the deadline articles and watching these different things, we know deadlining is a big publication. If you get a deadline, that means Hollywood is paying attention. Okay. Hello, we got a deadline. So when the deadline came out about the film and Cynthia Erivo and Courtney, I was like, wow, this is going to be amazing. They're going to shoot it in Atlanta. I said, Lord, I want to be in that film. Okay. Like I say about a lot of things that I know that I could bring my skill set to. So I got the audition, and I was kind of like, whoa, I got an audition. I got invited. I read the breakdown, and this is Clara Ward in her late 20s, 30s, you know, and this is during like the gospel circuit with Courtney B. Vance, who was C.L. Franklin, Aretha's father. And I sent my tape in. They said she might sing. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Clara Ward is the godmother of gospel who trained Aretha. She might sing. But that's because a lot of times the actor doesn't have to sing. They'll bring somebody else in to do the vocals, and you just kind of do a dub. And my agent was like, after I sent my original tape, she called me the next day and said, hey, can you send something of you singing? They want to hear you sing. And I'm saying to myself, girl, yeah, I'm getting ready to send this something singing. So I actually sent in a vocal audition for a Tyler Perry project that I didn't get, that I already had recorded because it needed such a quick turnaround. And I sent that one in.
So we repackaged it.
Okay, always. So we repackaged that thing, one closed door. Yeah, right. That door might have been closed, but here's something else to open up. So I sent it in and I'm like, okay. And then we didn't hear anything for like 2 months. That was like kind of at the end of the year in 19, we shot it. So I found it in January of 2020 that I booked the job, and I was screaming and hollering and so thankful because I was just ready for a breakthrough in that space. I had done commercials and I had done some smaller things like TV One, but I was really ready for what that next thing would look like. And that's when I found out I booked it. And I guess you can ask me some more if you want to, but that's how it kind of came together. Really was just submitting and being up for the challenge. You got to put your name out there if you want to be in those new spaces. So
you mentioned Deadline. For those people that may not know what Deadline is.
Yeah.
That's a publication? Yeah,
Deadline is a publication. So anytime there are any major television shows, any big news that happens in Hollywood, if anybody gets a first look deal, if something is, someone's been added to a cast for something, that's kind of where actors look to see what's happening next. And that's where they want to, aspire to have a Deadline article. And I actually had a Deadline. I was in a Deadline article with T.I. and a couple other recurring actors that were a part of Genius. So
is this a public?
Yeah, you can go on Deadline. Yeah, you can just.
So anybody can
go on. Yeah, but it's kind of something inner industry where people, as far as actors, if you get a Deadline article, it's like, I'm making a major contribution to this project because the PR team there at the network saw that I'm worthy of being mentioned in this article. We actually got 2 where we were mentioned, where I was mentioned along with Aretha, Genius team.
Wow. So that wasn't your first acting gig though. So tell us a little bit more about some of the ventures that you had. And if you don't mind, I like to start at the bottom. I like for people to know, what was your first foray into acting? Because the Genius Aretha sounds huge,
right?
And almost unattainable to some people. What was your first gig?
So my first professional, I guess, acting gig here in Atlanta was when I came out from behind the scenes as a creative in the entertainment industry and started doing musical theater. Okay, so we talked about if you got to choose between acting and the voice, that voice, right? And she can dance. Okay. So we started doing musical theater first. I'm in Atlanta, I'm not in New York. And I said, I'm ready to start pursuing these other things, but my skills, my tools have to be sharp. That's another thing. People want to jump in and then we don't want to shed, right? Musicians know about shedding, okay? Let's use the language, right? So you don't want to shed. So I was like, well, you got to shed, girl. You got to get in here where you can be using all 3 skills, singing, dancing, and acting at the same time. So I went and auditioned for a show called Memphis the Musical, which was once upon a time on Broadway. They were doing it here locally. And I had to beg to get seen. No one knew me. People knew Stage Ready. They didn't know Tina Fierce as someone who's trying to act. And so I auditioned for it. I was able to get into the show. I was in the ensemble. That was my first real musical theater credit. And from that, did a good job and was asked to invite for some other things and kind of picked up momentum doing a lot of musical theater. So I did, I was in Dreamgirls and I was in Simply Simone, which was a Nina Simone story. Here locally in Atlanta, I was able to get my equity card through that, which is very hard to get in Atlanta. It's hard to get at that time it was really hard to get your equity card. So I'm proud of that and just did a lot of theater. So it was
What's an equity card?
So that is Actors Equity Association. So when you're equity, that means you're required to be paid a certain amount. We can't do the foolishness with, unsafe and work environments. It's the union, right?
Like and musicians union, so
absolutely
for actors, right?
So Screen Actors Guild, SAG is, for TV and film. If you're doing theater, it's equity. So in Atlanta, we're a right to work state. So there are a lot of people who feel a little bit limited, as far as taking their equity card because some shows in Atlanta don't have equity contracts. So you kind of are separated out a little bit once you take your equity card. And I was offered an equity card for one show and I decided not to take it. But by the time I got the opportunity the second time, I feel like I was prepared to take that card. That means I'm going to be a little more selective about the type of jobs I do. I've paid my dues in town. People kind of know what she does, what she brings to the table. And I just was building this trajectory of what I wanted as a creative. So if you want to talk about the start of the acting, it was musical theater. And then after that, I said, okay, I need a rep. I need an agent. I need someone who sees that I'm talented, that believes in me, and that can start pitching me for other opportunities. So I was blessed to get an agent at that time and started submitting for commercials, started getting print campaigns, and had a really lovely run with Ford. I was a part of the Ford Born to Roll campaign and did some stuff with Walmart and so on and so forth. So if people ask me how I got started, it was really theater, which we know people like Denzel Washington and Felicia Rashad. Those are theater people, you know, where you cut teeth there, the late Chadwick Boseman, and then you take those skills out and project them on TV. And
I love Denzel's story because I've heard that numerous times. How he really wasn't trying to get into theater or trying to get into acting, but he was working like a summer camp or something like that. Right. And they asked the camp staff to participate in the play. And he's like, there might be something to this.
Yeah. It says something about just trying new things. Yeah. You know, if you have a little interest in that, you know, test it and see if there's something that maybe you have something that kind of sparks
if it speaks to you like in a way. So equity, just like buying a home and building equity, is that basically the premise for the name, the equity card? You now have some street cred, if you will?
Right. So when you go into auditions, I mean, mine is in my wallet. You know, they don't ask for it anymore because so much is digital. But it's kind of a little street cred. Like, so even when they have auditions in New York, the equity artists are seen as priority first. You know, that there's a little, and you earn it.
And you make more money because of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll know if like a contract, whatever the AEA, Actors Equity Association rate is for that project. Okay. I'm big on negotiation, but that talks about the business side of Tina. So even when there's a rate set, you know, based on what you're going to be asked to do, what's required, you know, you can always negotiate a little up a little bit. So
I got a question for you. I want you to, well, it's a statement. Let's do it this way. If you don't mind, complete the statement. Tina fears
not making an impact with her artistry. Making an impact is the most important thing to me. I don't want to be out here just doing things to do it. I want it to be meaningful. I want the legacy I'm trying to create for myself. You know, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, right? My dad, whose dreams were not fully realized. My mom, whose dreams were not fully realized. So I fear, you know, not being impactful, you know, and that's because that's something that is very important to me in everything that I do.
Awesome. Wow. So not being impactful. So do you believe that entertainers have a responsibility? Like
Absolutely.
You're born with it feels like a gift that, you know, anybody could have gotten the gift of music. Anybody could get the gift of acting. Like I said, Denzel, we use him as an example just now. He didn't know that he was going to be able to do, he didn't know he was a blockbuster,
right? Future,
you know, Hall of Fame, whatever, right? But something identifies itself. So what responsibility would you challenge our listeners with that if they have identified, maybe there's someone listening right now who's on the fence, right? Let's say you just haven't been using your gift and you realize now is that time. I've been putting it off long enough. What would you say to that person to come out from behind the curtain, so to speak, and step down the center stage?
Yeah, I think we have to, you know, life is so short, you know, it's like a vapor, and time is the one thing you can't get back, right? So you don't want to have regrets and live a life where you're sitting back watching people on TV, watching people on social media doing the things that you know you do without any effort. There's so much effort that goes into this presentation of, you know, image and art and all that kind of stuff. If you know you naturally do that, you know you get up and can sing down, can run, you know, write, why not bring those things to the forefront little by little? It's a lot to say, okay, go get an agent, go do shows and so on and so forth, because it's work to do these things. A lot of rejection, constant rejection. But why not feed your own soul with uplifting and pushing those natural talents and natural God-given gifts forward, just so you can live a whole and full life, you know? And that's doing things at various levels. That's not necessarily saying everyone has to shoot big. There's some people who don't want that big limelight, but they want to serve. They want to, you know, I have a friend of mine who, she's a guitarist and a songwriter. Even my sister said, do I need to go somewhere and just read some poetry? She loves to write, you know, and there's something healing and full about being able to express yourself artistically. So I would encourage people to, you know, you never know what the next day is going to bring. And you also don't know what stepping out is going to open up for you in your life. You don't know what door is going to open. What if I would have just stayed behind the scenes with Stage Ready? And I want to be on TV. I want to do these things. And I never went to the audition for Memphis, right? We wouldn't be seeing the fruit of all the other things that have come from that. So just do it, y'all.
Go for it.
Just go for it.
What's the first step? Somebody says, I want to be an actress. Mm-hmm. I want to be an actor. Mm-hmm. What do you do in 2023 and beyond in today's time? Yeah. Everything is virtual, AI, all these conversations that we're having about, you don't have to be in one place, like we talked about the LA versus New York versus Atlanta. Mm-hmm. What would you do today to get started? To get to where you are right now?
Yeah. I would say, I'm going to lean into something that the Queen Mother, Debbie Allen, would say. We have to train. We have to train. And training is very different for different people. I think I got on the job training. Now, I'm still training now, right? But we have to get out of the spaces of just like talking about what we want to do. It's something you have to work at every single day. So I'm not going to tell people, go get headshots. There has to be some proof that there's some quality and some value in what it is that you're bringing forward. So I would say starting with that training, like figuring out what those things are that you're passionate about, and then how can you polish that thing up? How can you refine it and make it better? Once you have a product that is better than it was before, then you can start going into, getting some headshots so that you can be marketable. I would say just owning the fact that if you're an actor, own the fact that you're an actor. If you're a songwriter, own the fact that you're a songwriter. I never say I am a small or new. I'm a growing business owner, right? I'm not an aspiring anything because I'm living it and I'm walking it every single day. Sacrifices are being made. I'm not an aspiring actor or an aspiring what have you. So owning that thing, training, to make it better because it's competitive out here. And not allowing your current circumstances to be the reason why you don't pursue those things, right? So I'm segueing now. I didn't go to Howard. I went to Clark Atlanta. When I was in high school, I got accepted into Performing Arts High School, right? I was fearful because of the things that I saw that didn't happen in my parents' lives. I was afraid that if I followed that path, that would be the outcome for me. We're going to talk about it. We already know how God works, right? Because we see where we are now. So I was fearful. I didn't go to the Performing Arts High School. I stayed at the high school that I was at. If I would have gone to Performing Arts High School, I would have followed the Howard track. That would have been, that's what makes sense to do. So who knows? Maybe we would have broken into the industry sooner. But because I didn't allow my decision at that time, or I never felt like it was too late, I really didn't get into this until... Really, I haven't even been in this space as a creative for full 10 years. Mike is 12, right? I was running, my son, yes, Mike is 12. So I've been running the business. I've been behind the scenes. So there hasn't really been a full 10 year. We're talking about 5 to 7 years that God said, we're going to move this thing along, okay? We're going to move this thing along. So I'm saying all that to say, don't allow your current situation, failure, what worked, what didn't work, be why you don't train and prepare and pursue, Yeah.
So tell us about Stage Ready LLC. I have been a client.
Okay.
And very satisfied client.
Good.
But what was the vision for that? Everybody knows about being stage ready, but you are Mrs. Stage Ready. So
She's
anybody's
stage
confused,
ready.
we got the answer for you today.
We got the answer.
How to get stage ready. What was the vision behind Stage Ready, and what do you do?
Yeah, so Stage Ready came about after me being at Clark Atlanta for a couple years, having to transfer, running out of money. I love my HBCU, but honey, I couldn't afford it. Okay, I had to figure some things out. So I was leaving Clark Atlanta. I was transferred to the Art Institute, and I was working full-time job and just really trying to figure out how I can live. I wanted my dreams to come true. I knew, okay, this thing is not going to work. Me paying this tuition at CAU is just not realistic for my family right now. But I know God's called me to greater. I know I can sing. I know I can dance. I know that I am gifted in administration. So how can I package this and make this something that is lucrative and be what I told you I was fearful of, so that I could be impactful, right? I said, got to be impactful. And so the idea was to be a full service, almost like the Motown model. Old school Motown, right? They taught those girls how to walk. They had choreography. They had stylists. They were recording, songwriters, all this stuff. So when we originally started the business, the idea was to just be this one-stop shop where record labels or emerging artists or whatever, they could come to Stage Ready and get everything that they needed. And that's what we did. We built that. We had hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers, all of these things, because at the time there was a need for that. We're talking about Atlanta, mid 2000s, like really starting to turn over. The record labels are here. Missy's having auditions here. Sierra, all of that is happening here. Yeah. And there wasn't one resource where I'm trying to think of what's a gospel record label?
Well, it used to be
Ty, what was it called? Ty Scott Records, right? Okay, because one of my clients was, so Ty Scott can say, hey, Tina, this is what we need. I got this artist. They're getting ready to do this show. This is what we need. We need background singers. We need dancers. We need styling, So those things work for us. And I started out giving my services away, volunteering a lot until I built a resume that was credible. And then we started charging. And we built the business from there.
Don't miss that.
Okay.
People don't want to hear that these days.
Yeah.
Because everybody on Instagram is getting paid now.
Always.
$10,000
TikTok playing. Right.
So, but you gotta, like you said, we gotta train.
Oh yeah.
We gotta work, and sometimes people don't pay you to train.
Oh yeah.
Right. I don't know any athlete that gets paid.
Right.
To train.
Right.
But I know we can name any Hall of Famer that did train.
Mm-hmm.
So, but continue.
Yeah. So that's how the business started. We wanted to be impactful. We felt there was a need. We know with entrepreneurship, you always have to be solving a problem, right? If your business is not solving a problem, then you don't have anything that the market needs. Right. So at my time, there wasn't a resource where, and a lot of gospel artists lived here, at the time. And I'll tell you, Dietrich Haddon was actually one of my very first clients. Okay. D was the first one to utilize the entire Stage Ready suite, okay? And by suite, I mean those are the services we offer. Okay.
Was he doing that because he's done movies before? So
yeah, so this was still in the, after Sinner's Prayer, when he lived here in Atlanta. So we're talking about all of those, He's Able, the compilation that he did a whole album down in Florida with a bunch of different gospel artists, and they duetted on those songs. But he was here in Atlanta and he was touring a lot. So we would travel with him. We would provide background singers, choreographers, whatever he needed. He was one of the first to really take advantage of all of that. And so
shout out to D.
Yeah, shout out to D. Always.
He's ready.
Always. Yep.
So today, what does it look like in present day? What's Stage Ready up to these days?
Yeah.
I know how you helped me, but I don't take that for granted. But what can people expect to get if they reach out to you?
Yeah, we've evolved. Pre-pandemic, we had really kind of transitioned into servicing beauty brands and making that corporate dollar. I'll be honest. Okay, Musically Hitched, we're going to keep it real. Okay. So, we built a reputation. We were very blessed with the artists, but I found out that if I could tweak my services just a little bit and start offering these services in a project management capacity, I can now service beauty brands that are in Target. I can service Sally Beauty. I can service hair shows, fitness conventions. And so with that dollar is going where? Up. Because we know how artists are. If artists only has this much money in the budget, the label doesn't want to match that, then I'm crunching money, crunching down on my amount. So I had to figure out how to evolve. There was a need for that. Entrepreneurship was thriving in Atlanta. And remember, I'm a very young woman, okay? So I'm like in my 20s, I'm in like my late 20s. Like I'm a young bopper, like coming in, sitting at the table with like goats in their various fields. And so I had to be sharp. I had to make sure that I knew my stuff. And I think people took a liking to this young woman who is fearlessly walking into these rooms, pitching her business. Yeah, I'm pitching my business and could deliver. I can say that now. I can say that was something that worked for us. So now we're more able to expand our menu, expand our offerings to now we're doing project management. Now we are helping to roll out campaigns. If someone has maybe a new beard product they want to roll out, then I'm helping you put the entire campaign together. We're doing the project management and the production component of that, so that whole thing can kind of come to life. And that was something we found out was much more lucrative for us. And it still kept us, with what Stage Ready does. We still service artists and background singers and all of that. But when it came down to lifestyle, when we talk about building legacy, I had to just adjust what I was offering just a little bit.
All right. Well, that's fair. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And
absolutely.
Got to go where the cheese.
That's right, where the bread is. Yep.
So Founder First DC. We just talked about funding, opportunities, raising capital, these things that you're no stranger to.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Kiddie Fund grant. You were a finalist.
Yeah,
and you received the grant.
Yeah,
so
I did.
Tell us about that process.
So I went through the Bank of America Institute for Women's Entrepreneurship at Cornell. I finished that program a couple of years ago. And so as an alum of that program, we get access to various grant opportunities. And I am someone who bootstrapped my business, using my little business terms. I bootstrapped the business, which means I did not crowdfund, which means I didn't have any private investors. I did not take out a bank loan. Everything that I made, I put back into the business. So I bootstrapped it, right? Boots on the ground. Yeah. So when you bootstrap the business, you often find yourself in need of funding to expand the business, to, do new projects, to not have to wait for somebody else to hire you to do something. And so Kiddie's Fund was just an opportunity for me to tell my story of how I built the business, share with them the things I desire to do with Stage Ready. That's going to take us beyond even where we've been now. And they selected me. I was like out of maybe, it was about 35 of us, and then we ended up getting a grant for that.
Your brilliance is not to be squandered, and the rarity of your love must be sown on good ground. What did you mean by that statement?
I think that statement was just a reminder to women how brilliant and powerful we are, how what we have as individuals is so unique. And, specifically Black women, we have such tremendous influence. I'm talking to a brother, so you got a wife, so you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we inspire everything from hair to fashion to food to what's trending. We are some of the biggest spenders in the world. We help fuel the success of the health and wellness and beauty industry. And so I think it's just a reminder. Sometimes we forget how much we bring to the table and how much it's worth just in the hustle and bustle of being a strong Black woman. It's like, pause, sis. You are brilliant, and what you invest your time and your energy into has to be fertile, good, healthy ground that can feed you, right? So that something can sprout up out of that you can benefit from, right? I was someone who struggled with perfectionism, still working on that. Y'all could probably tell by how many times I'm like, okay, what's the light? What is it? I'm working on it. But in that spirit of being a perfectionist, you would just empty yourself out. I would produce these shows. Thousands of people would be in attendance, and I would be somewhere laid up in a hospital room afterwards because I was just working constantly around the clock, pushing for excellence, pushing for that person or that brand's product to be great, and I wasn't taking the time to pour into myself. I'm brilliant. And my love, which is my craft and what I put out into the world, it has to be sown on good ground. It has to go into a place where it's received, where it's valued, where it's appreciated. You could take that as a personal relational thing, or that can just be how you carry yourself as you move through this world. So I think that's what that lady meant by that statement.
Not anybody that you know.
Not anybody that I know. But yeah, I think that's where I was coming from in that place. Yeah.
Well, you are obviously a powerhouse. So you're a mom, you're a wife, you've got a few things going on outside of just the businesses that you run.
Sure.
So how do you balance the role of wife? Let's talk about that one first, because you have two different roles, right? That I'm going to bring up, but wife and entertainment professional. What has that been like over 15 years for you?
It has, yes, 15 years. It's been beautiful. It's been a beautiful journey. My husband is my best friend. He is my coach in a sense. When I want to just ball up and I didn't get the job, it's like, come on, babe, you got it. Come on,
you don't
God,
get every job that you audition?
Woo! So many no's, more no's than you can even handle. I think creatives are a little crazy because we get so much rejection, but you have to love what you do enough to keep pursuing that. So my husband is someone who has really, as I'm trying these various business ventures and taking these risks that, a lot of times pay off tremendously and sometimes they don't. He is the anchor of our household. He is who allows me to go and twirl and take trips and do all these things, to bring them back to the house, to the storehouse. He maintains, everything for us. And it's a beautiful partnership. I'm so grateful for it. He reads for me during my auditions, I get on his nerves because he ain't an actor, He like, why does it matter if I say the line like that? I'm like, come on, we want to send a good tape in. So it's been really beautiful to really build this thing together. And for, my husband and my now son to come to red carpet events with me and like see that it's been worth it. You know, we've been able to be in a season of seeing the result of those things. So it's great. And it makes it, as hard as it is, it does make it easier when you have someone to lean on. Not just from you live in a nice house, you have cars and all those kinds of things, but just to feel like you're doing it with someone, and when you do have a win, you have someone to cherish it and celebrate it with. So
do you ever have any struggles or regrets with the time that you have to spend away from home in order to succeed in this business?
Absolutely. And so I'm in a place now where I'm intentional. I'm intentional about what I say yes to. I'm intentional about the projects and the type of projects. There's certain scenes that you just won't be seeing Tina Fierce doing, even if the network is offering that. My management team and agents know, we're not going to submit that to her because I represent my family. I have a son that's in middle school, and his little friends be on my page and all kind of things. So do I have regrets? I wouldn't say regrets, but I am just intentional about what I do. And it wasn't always like that. That when I was traveling on the road a lot, I did that before we had Micah. And then I took time to say, I need to get my son at least up to those first 4 years. I was at home. And I watched a lot of my friends travel and do things. And one of my girlfriends, girl, just go to New York. You ready? And I'm like, that doesn't fit what we're building here. So it's a balance in that. Thank you for asking that.
No, it's important. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in the grind. The grind. Everybody's talked about I need to grind, but you've got to grind. I heard Eric Thomas say this one time. He said, I grind at everything. Okay. I grind at being a husband. I grind at being a father. I'm not just grinding. So when I'm talking about it, it's everything that I do. It's not just a stage. Right. Miss Stage Ready.
Yeah, right.
But you got to do both. You got to take care of home.
Right.
And it sounds like Mr. Fierce is taking care of you. Yeah. So what about your son? What's it like being, he's a 12-year-old, right? So
oh my gosh, I have a 12-year-old, friends.
That's different than having, a toddler, right? So he's matured. But what is it like now? Because he's got his own life at this point too, friends, social life. How do you stay connected to a team as well as being in the business?
Yeah, it's making choices and not saying yes to everything. One thing that Martin and I decided we wanted to do as we're parenting Micah, he is our greatest investment. So as I move and shake, I never want his life to be disrupted while I'm out here trying to move and shake and be and da. So I have a beautiful village of my mother, my stepdad, my sister, my sister-in-laws, and we have a village so that like when I was shooting Genius, my tribe made sure that was really demanding. So my tribe made sure Micah was good, and he was a little bit younger then. So he was still in elementary school. So it was, making sure that he got picked up from school, and I'm very hands-on in my parenting style. So making sure that his snack and his dinner and, his homework time, he's a stellar academic performer. So just making sure that me not being there because I'm shooting doesn't mean that the bottom falls out of the house, and I credit that to, of course, my husband, but then also have a village around us that makes sure that, okay, we got this pickup time. We'll be there until dad gets home from work and, so on and so forth. And Micah has actually read for me during auditions. There was a cartoon that I booked and he read for me, and I believe his little voice being in the mix helped me get the part. He also read for me when I auditioned for Genius. Wow. He read as little Aretha. So there's buy-in, from my entire family. And I'm so thankful because everybody doesn't have that. They don't have people who are helping push this machine forward. And my goal is just, again, to be impactful so that I can open up doors for everyone in my family to be able to be okay through the things that God is doing in my life.
Different question about parenting, but being the parent of an entertainer. If someone's watching or listening that wants their kid or thinks their kid has acting talent, what would you recommend, or what do you recommend to parents about getting their kids into this industry?
Industry is very demanding, whether you are a child, whether you're an adult, especially as a kid. And kids grow and change, their interest levels change. So I talked about training, get them in some acting classes, send them to a workshop. Then I would get some pictures, right? To start. Because you don't want to go to an agent just because you think your kid is cute, just because your child shows a lot of personality. They have to have the work ethic to go along with that. And then as a parent, you have to be able to be committed to, if they call you, you send a shoot, send something in today, they call you tomorrow and you're on set for 9 hours. Are you able to handle all of that? So I think getting them into training, there are a lot of workshops, YEA, there are AGI, there are a lot of resources specifically in Atlanta for young performers, which allows you make a little investment with classes, you do pay for those, but you're going to be able to gauge what your child is really interested in and if they got the goods. You don't want to waste money just on cuteness, because cuteness and then annoyed and don't want to listen, that can be a challenge in a professional space.
How much should I prepare to invest? Like if I want, we're talking about numbers because these classes aren't free, right? So that's one concern I think some people have is like, if I start it, can I finish it? So what do you think parents need to realistically expect to invest in their child's training? Yeah,
I think it really depends. I mean, you're talking about, let's say you have a triple threat, someone who can sing, dance, and has interest in acting. You may be paying, $25 to $35 per dance class. You could pay $75 to $175 for a dance class. You can do that same thing when it comes to acting and vocal training and what have you. I am a big fan of on-the-job experiences, right? So if there's community theater going on and they're doing the Wiz and they need someone to go and be Dorothy, and your baby can sing because she sing at church, let her go and audition for the Wiz, right? And so she's getting the experience of being in a show, learning lines, working, with her castmates, and you're not paying anything for it, right? So I think we have to kind of look for different creative ways that we can gauge if they're interested and then make sure we're supporting if they are and preparing them for that next phase. Yeah.
How do I get an agent?
Okay. So getting an agent can be a challenge. Just like, anything, you kind of have to do the work. So sometimes agents have open calls for submissions. A lot of times agencies need you to be referred by someone, meaning someone has to already be signed and they say, hey, I think this person might be a good fit for our roster. Would you take a look at them? So Atlanta, once upon a time, we didn't have, but maybe a handful of agents. But now there are a lot of boutique agencies that are popping up and creating opportunities for people to be seen. So it's submission. It's pounding the pavement, see me, refuse to be denied, pressing through until you get an agent. And then having an agent that doesn't mean, okay, now you're going to arrive and book. Then you got to go through the process of submitting and getting better and understanding how to self-tape. We don't go in the room anymore. We self-tape. So you got to master what it means to tape and audition on camera, and then you're moving. You know what I'm saying? So you have to. There's a process to all of it.
So with people self-taping, do you have any tips or pointers for what they should and should not do?
Yeah, you have to do it a lot. Every audition is very different. Lighting is important. Your audio setup is important. Right before the pandemic, Atlanta was kind of transitioning into requiring self-tapes. They were still, some agencies were still calling you in for a callback. But once we hit that pandemic, everybody went to straight up self-tapes. And so we used to have to go to self-tape studios and pay per audition, per line. That's money going out. But I encourage people, once you've gotten to the place where you're starting to be seen, I just say invest in your own setup. That's what I have. I have, beautiful gray walls and lights and stuff at home. That way, when you have an abundance, you can kind of knock it out versus making an appointment to go and tape with someone. And there is a space for that. When you want to be coached, you got a big role coming up, you may want to coach with, have a coach audition you. But I think you invest in your own thing. And you can use your camera phone. Yeah. You don't even need the big, what was the camera that was what were they called? The Nikons? Yeah. I had a Nikon. And then I was like, okay, iPhone is doing it though. And the casting directors will tell you now, you just use that iPhone and you can tape like that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, and I didn't, because I can speak from my own personal experience. I didn't know at first when I got iPhone, I think I got iPhone 12, that you can film in 4K,
right.
4K 60, and that changed the game.
It changed the game. Yeah.
Because this is like really having a digital camera.
People shoot whole short films. Yeah. They shoot short films and enter them in festivals with an iPhone.
Yeah. So let's talk about the money.
Okay.
Right? Everybody knows that, this journey is hard, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing it, you're going to have some ups and downs. We talked about rejection a lot. When you get rejected, when musicians don't perform, they typically don't get paid.
Right.
Actors, you can tell us more about syndication, but I'm assuming that if an actor doesn't get a gig, unless they have some recurring role, some syndication checks coming in, they're not getting paid.
Right.
So let's talk about the money. How much can someone expect to get paid on their first gig? What should they look for? Should they be asking for anything? Or do they just have to take what they get?
Yeah, it really depends. It depends on what that first gig is. If you get a project, let's say you're shooting a commercial and then they do a buyout for you, or you don't have any residuals that come in. When I did the 4 campaigns, we got paid off of that for a while, because as long as they kept picking it up, like 6 months, 12 months, they kept picking it up, you're kind of on a cycle of getting paid, right? You get your residuals from it. But sometimes if you book something, you may book the job and this is your flat rate and that's it. For they pay the usage fee for 2 years and then that's just it. So to your point, if you don't work, you don't eat. You don't work, you don't eat. That's in any industry.
But you still got to invest in training.
You still got to invest in training. So how do you do
that if you're not making any money?
You have to be a multi-hyphenate, which is why I am the show and the business. Because if I'm not working on stage, on camera, I'm working stage ready, right? And so I encourage people to find those other things that you do well. This is a grind. This is a hustle. You gotta figure out everything that's in your toolbox. Sit it on the table. Okay, I can't do that. I know actors who, if they're not acting, they're photographers. If they're not acting, they're coaching. If they're not acting, they're doing choreography. We know singers, okay, if I'm not on the road, then I'm doing sessions. I'm doing demo sessions. So it's figuring out what those other things are so that you can ultimately fund the dream. When you need to look good for an audition, you can look good because you made your money singing backgrounds, or you made your money coaching, so on and so forth. So can I tell you what to expect? It depends on what level of work you're doing, what the contract says. But I believe in phases. You know, there are times when I did the TV One stuff, it was just a flat rate, you know. That's why it's so challenging. Do you remember when we saw the gentleman that used to be Elvin on the Cosby Show and he was working in Trader Joe's and people were so shook they didn't understand it. We don't understand when people like Tony Braxton filed bankruptcy and how do they, because you're only great as your last hit record. You know, that's an old school saying, you know, and so that's why I appreciate our generation because people are not just putting all their eggs into the see me and make me famous basket. It's like, no, while y'all trying to decide, I already know I'm dope. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other things. Mm-hmm. Then when you interview me, it's like, oh, you do that too? Yeah. Because I can't wait on you. I can't wait on you to eat and make sure my family is good. So, yeah, you can go anywhere from. Absolutely. I think I saw something where Isaac Curry was talking about how he built a house when he was touring with some country artists. I saw that on TikTok, right? You on the road just doing background vocals, right? But you in a situation where it made enough sense where you were able to store up for your family and be able to set a situation up. So every contract is different. I hope that's insightful.
That was a bar too, by the way. Somebody missed that, but a gospel artist was doing country.
Oh yeah, right.
And built a house.
Come on, and built a house.
Continue.
Yeah, so I think it's all about how we play our cards and what do we do in the meantime. Always never being a starving artist, you know, and that's the reality. That's me being my parents' legacy, but doing it different, right? Like I'm not waiting on the Jacksons to call me for the next thing because I got rent to pay. I have a mortgage, you know, and so that's just now you getting the other side, the raw, take the wig, you know, you're getting the real deal because those are the things that our people are missing. You know, we're shooting after these dreams, but you got to be more than just a dreamer, and being talented is not enough. You have to have a strategic plan. You have to be intentional about every move you make. You have to be intentional about who you connect yourself to, the things that you ask God to do in your life, and then are you doing the things so that when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready. And I really believe when Genius came around, I believe God said, you're ready for this. When I did Memphis, I wasn't ready for that. I had to shed. Come on, musicians. Yeah, right. I had to shed and be prepared. And I believe there's another level. There's a shedding that took place from that phase to the next phase, you know, as we grow and elevate.
So what does a typical week look like for Tina Theus? Like, let's say, particularly when let's just say you're not actually working on a project, but you're auditioning. Mm-hmm. So let's talk Monday through Friday or Sunday to Sunday.
Yes, it's Sunday to Sunday. So Sunday is my reset day. Okay. That's, you know, with my family, and we're kind of preparing for what the week looks like. If I got something from my agent on Friday, then I know Monday, Tuesday, I'm preparing to shoot this audition footage. Stage Ready also has its own schedule. So I have a big whiteboard in my office. We help cast something for a beauty brand. And then we also shared out some things, which is something we do a lot, which we did with you guys, right? We know people have things going on. We share those things out. So it is preparing whatever the artistry is asking for, you know, doing my work, doing my character development, deciding who this character is, what their perspective is. If she has to sing, making sure that we're exercising the vocal and prepared to do that. But it's also meeting those deadlines and making sure I can deliver for my clients. And I also pitch a lot. I don't wait for the opportunity to come to me. I'm casting that net. hey, do you know who Stage Ready? This is what we do, you know. And it might be just throwing spaghetti on the wall and it might fall down, but sometimes it sticks. And sometimes it ends up being a really fruitful, abundant blessing to my family and to the people who work alongside me. I don't believe anybody works for me. They work alongside me. So it's a juggling thing on top of planning birthday parties and, you know, going to see what my mama doing and, you know, all of those things. So it's balancing all of that. It's constantly moving the cards around the deck.
So how do you teach others outside of your household, and even those that are in immediate family? How do you teach them, distant family, to respect your schedule? Because a lot of times we're seen as, if you're not working a 9 to 5, it looks like you have all the free time in the world because you make your own schedule.
Right.
Well, you do make your own schedule. You just told us your schedule. So how do you get other people to respect the fact that you've already made a schedule that they may or may not know about?
Right. That's a powerful question because I just learned that like 2 years ago. The pandemic was my great reset. Remember I told you how Tina was balled up and, you know, all of that. So the pandemic is what really allowed me to see this is who you actually are when you're not stressed out, when you're not, you know, tired all the time, not overworked. And so my personal time and my level of receiving whatever somebody is giving has changed tremendously. It's a lot of unavailables. It's a lot of, you know, do not disturbs now.
So if I look at your acuity scheduling, I'm only going to see a couple boxes. It's 168 hours.
I mean, you know, so, but it's really, right. It's only, for me, it's really just prioritizing. When I'm tired. I love y'all. I'll you know, like, it was seriously, like, full transparency. This was a major life-changing, life-defining moment for me. Prioritizing myself and my time and letting my family know I'm not available for that, friends, what have you. And so it's really just about creating healthy boundaries, you know, and listening to myself a lot more. Like knowing I'm not my best self when I'm tired, irritable, stressed, I can't give my best to the world, to my family, so.
Walls are about keeping others out and keeping you in. That's easy to miss too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes for us, we need the boundaries for ourselves to keep us focused long enough on these creative ventures, these projects. Because nothing, I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but most great things are often created in solitude.
Yeah.
You need that time, that training time, that pruning, the vision has got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can't get it with all the noise.
That's good.
So keeping others out
Yeah.
is a way of protecting your own creativity so that you can,
right,
I guess, bring them back in, right?
Right, because we're in a social media age, right? So we're constantly feeding ourselves everything.
Everybody else's thoughts.
Even creativity. It's like, oh, that's dope. Oh, that's da-da-da-da-da. 2022 at the end of the year, I kind of had to sit down for a minute. I was like, it's information overload. I got to tap back in because I wasn't inspired. I felt myself lacking inspiration, which is kind of rare. And that's why I was like, girl, you need to step back. And in that break, scripts have come, you know, new ideas for collaboration have come. So I like that about the walls. Got to kind of protect, you know, self.
Yeah, we mentioned Tyler Perry earlier, but he's always been famous for saying that he literally leaves Atlanta and goes somewhere, private island, whatever is accessible to him. But you don't have to have a private island in the Caribbean, right? To do that, I think the objective is just getting away from the norm, even your creative surroundings, your day-to-day work grind as a creative, and still making time for you to get new messages.
Yeah, making time and just refreshing, you know, coming up with the newness. You need that. So I think that's dope.
What does it mean to live fearless? The Fearless Movement is a company that you founded.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? I know it sounds cliche.
Right.
No fear.
Right.
But what does that mean?
Yeah, fearless for me, it really means identifying the fear and figuring out how you're going to navigate through it, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you I am without fear.
So you believe that fear is definitely real?
Oh, fear is real. Oh, absolutely. But to live life fearlessly means like, okay, the fear is there, but like I'm gonna figure out how to conquer that thing. I'm not gonna let the fear win. So, you know, like you said, no fear. Everybody got some kind of fear, fearless brand, da-da-da-da-da. But for me, it's really my testimony. You know, it's really me being fearless in the pursuit of what sets my soul on fire. You know, every time a door was closed, some kind of way, I found a way to pull myself up by the bootstraps. Sometimes it was a quick move. Sometimes it took time, but it was to keep the momentum going forward. And so that's what living fearless is for me. It's not that fear doesn't exist. Let me identify specifically what that is and then get us a plan together to get us on the other side of it. That's what it is.
What do you do when you're not being creative? Is there ever a time where you're not? Like, what do you do for fun? How do you unwind? Relax?
I love to cook. Yeah. If you go on my social media, you're going to see, especially on my reels, you're going to see lots of recipes.
Top dish that you love to make?
Ooh, there's a Tuscan chicken that I do that is so lovely with a little minced garlic, some sun-dried tomatoes, portobello mushrooms. Okay. A little heavy cream. I deglaze the pan with some white wine sauce. And then you come up with this really nice sauce, and then you add some spinach into that, and you serve it either over mashed potato or a little pasta. It's a really nice dish. So that's how you know I cook for real, baby.
So
okay.
Did you pick this up? Was this mom passed it down? You picked it up on your own?
Yeah, everybody in my family can cook. Like my mom, my grandmother, my uncles, like everybody on that side can cook, and we really enjoy cooking. But I think I got them all beat. I got them all beat now. Yeah, but it is an art. It is an art. I enjoy, and I like to make food content. You know, I'm definitely, there's definitely going to be like a cookbook or maybe a cooking series or something in the works, you know, going from just the idea phase to making it something that's tangible and real. So
how often do you actually cook based on how busy you are? What about during a regular week? What does that look like?
3 days a week, you're going to get something on the table. Yeah, 3 days a week. And you know, little breakfast and snacks and sneak snacks and stuff. But I'm back in hero training, so that means I have to cook.
Is this breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Or one
at least 2.
Okay.
But the guys
3 times a week.
Yeah, the guys have such a busy schedule, so they're gonna get dinner, but I'm also like cooking snacks and stuff for myself. So like Tabitha Brown's things, I'll make a cute little lunch or something with some of her foods or some of her vegan items. But you know, when you're in hero training, you can't do the fast food and the Uber Eats, because my Uber Eats bill was crazy.
Yeah.
It gets crazy. And I was like, okay, we got to stop. Yeah. You got to get back on the pots and pans. So, yeah. Wow. That's what it looks like.
So living fearless means living not without fear, but without being paralyzed.
Right.
You move forward.
Yeah.
Right? You got to deal with it.
Yeah. Yep. In all circumstances, all situations. And with the Fearless movement, you know, that's how we're giving back to people who were like me. You know, those girls who are late teens, 20s, life might be a little crazy, finances might be a little funny, but you're still dreaming. You know, so we've done some give back, some beauty in the bag, some service projects under the Fearless movement where, you know, we're creating opportunities for people who were like myself and my sister who just needed someone to pour into them and tell them that they can do it, you know. It's important that we serve our own people. That's another thing for me too. Yeah. You know, we need, our youth need to see people who look like them serving them. Right. We do so from a place of care, with a gentle hand, compassion. Those things are important. It's easy for anybody to fly down and get a photo moment, but it's different when you've been there. You just serve differently. So that's important for me too.
What's your legacy? What do you want people to remember 100 years from now?
Whoa.
What should people say? Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
What do you hope they will say about Tina Fears?
I hope that people will say that Tina Fears is someone who utilized everything that she knew how to do to be impactful in the lives of others, whether it be through my art, as an actor, singer, dancer, whether it be through my business ventures, investing in those people who work alongside me, pushing them to pursue their dreams, you know, that I was a good mother, a good wife, a good sister, a good daughter. But legacy is taking a business that was an idea after college didn't work out and being able to see what it was able to do in the doors that opened from that. You know, $100 in a dream. That's all I had was $100. Go get your LLC, girl. At least you're going to be legit, you know? So to be able to see what that did and the things that I know are going to come even, you know, 10, 15 years from now, that's what I want the legacy to be. She used everything she had. She did everything. She was a Jane of all trades, okay?
Jane of all trades.
And she did some good stuff with it. And we can go back and play it on Netflix or whatever they watching now.
Where can people find you online and social media if they want to follow and keep in touch?
At Tina Fears on all platforms. So TinaFears.com. Tina Fears on hey y'all. So you can find me on all platforms at Tina Fears. Tina Fears on Instagram, Facebook, the World Wide Web, Google. It's all Tina Fears.
To close out, same camera, what would you say to those that may be dealing with fear right now in some way around it, whether it's their art, their creativity, maybe it's their parenthood, all the things that we talked about today. What closing message would you give our listeners and viewers today?
I would close out by saying you are greater than your current situation. You are not limited by your circumstances. As long as you keep living, you are getting closer to the other side of whatever you're in right now. And for those of us who have been called to greater, that thing that wakes you up every morning, that thing that won't let you go to bed at night, that idea that every time you see something close to it on TV, it's like, man, it's in my phone, it's in the notes. If you continue to push forward, if you continue to dream out loud, sometimes you just have to say it. Sometimes you just have to say, I am an actor. I am going to act. I'm going to write a song. I'm going to sing backgrounds. I'm going to. That's the start of it, because we're sometimes, using your words, paralyzed by fear that if I actually say it, then, oh man, I got to live up to. But sometimes, you just got to get it out. So you're not limited by your situation. Greater is coming in your life. And we know if we can just keep living, keep moving forward, keep desiring more, those things will properly align. Be ready, because once you ask for it, the Lord is going to start sending you the right people. It's going to start lining up. But will you be ready when your opportunity presents itself? I believe you can. I believe you can do it.
That's big. That's huge. Well, great. Well, again, this has been another fantastic episode of Musically Hitched. We've been with none other than the illustrious Miss Tina Fears. She gave us the game on being stage ready, how to get an agent, how to raise your kids to be in the entertainment business, how to cook 3 meals a day, 2-3 days a week while being on a Broadway act. I mean, we got it all. So it's going to be a lot of nuggets in here. So we hope you all enjoyed this content today. Again, don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, etc., and subscribe on YouTube if you follow there. Take care. We'll see you next time. Supporting this podcast is easy. Just hit the subscribe button. See you on the next episode.